America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
Hi friends, welcome to the Share Report. If you're new here, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And for those who are returning, thank you so much for your support and for being here. I truly appreciate it. Share this channel with others, get others involved, become active citizens, educate ourselves, knowing what we're up against, not sitting on our hands thinking that we're going to be taken care of. Nope, that's not going to happen. We have to get to work and be involved and due diligence and take care of ourselves if we want change. So with that being said, today's video is in light of the most recent talk of President Trump. He was saying that he was wanting to eliminate the income tax. And man, that would be so wonderful if that happens. There has been a lot of talk about that could potentially happen. I don't know. I personally don't want to be a negative Nancy. I don't see it happening. And there are reasons why I don't see it happening. So I do want to go further back in the beginning of when our country was founded. We did not have the federal income tax. That did not get enacted until 1913. And there were some things that happened prior to that in order for that to happen. So prior to that, how we got our money was through tariffs. Yes, tariffs, friends. So we know there was a lot of uproar about the tariffs. I understand right now the economy is not the best. We are definitely in a recession. People are being laid off left and right, which is very sad. People are living in their cars, living with relatives. People, multi-generational family members are all together. And it's just not a really good scene right now here in America. So I understand the tariff thing when people are like, oh, it's going to cost more for us. I really, truly understand. But that's another story for another time. But how America did survive in the very beginning was through tariffs. So tariffs are not a bad thing. Tariffs are not a bad thing if the economy is good, if the American people are put first, if the American people are watching what their politicians are doing and have a good handle on their government, if production and labor and our companies are here in America, yes, tariffs work wonderfully. And if there's a good, prosperous economy, yes, tariffs work great. I totally understand the outcry right now. So that's how America was first afloat and funded, was via tariffs. So with that being said, I truly love the idea of income taxes being eliminated. But I want to give you a little bit of backstory about this. So, income taxes, the first federal income tax that ever was laid to us was during the Civil War. Yes, friends, yes, yes, yes. That three-letter word that our government just loves. W-A-R, war. They love war so much. They love it more than the air, the fresh air that they breathe. They love it more than just anything in life. They just love war. So that's when the first income tax, federal American income tax, was actually founded. And that was in 1861. I got my little notes here so that I make sure I can remember every single thing, because there's so many details about this, and we may do a part 2 of this video leading into the 16th Amendment. So that was the first. So at first they did a flat tax of 3% of $800 or more. So that would be equivalent to today's, in 2025 numbers, that would be like $24,000. So that's what you would think of 800 back then in 1861. So they use that 3% flat tax to fund their war. They fund the Civil War, and that's how they got their money to go to war. So that was repealed 1872. The concept was still around. It was still in the back of our government's head, like, hey, we created something that was supposed to fund the wars we like to keep generating. That was actually pretty good. I wonder if we can trick the masses and continue with this income tax thing. So, as we know, later on in 1895, you may have heard of the Pollock versus the Farmer Loans Trust. Pollock went to court and said, you know what, this whole income tax things, this is definitely unconstitutional. He did not win in the lower courts, so he went to the Supreme Court. They actually were in his favor and said it's not constitutional. Hence the 16th Amendment. That's when the 16th Amendment was born. So it was like in the back of their mind and everything. So the 16th Amendment came and was in, what year was that? 1895. Okay, so that's when the whole thing was happening. And then in 1895, that's when they were like, let's create the 16th Amendment. There was some other things that happened in between that, but it officially went into effect in 1913. So it was actually brought then, and here we are over 100 years later. It was passed in 1909 and then went in effect in 1913. So I want to make sure I give that correct to you. So Congress was like, you know what? This is what the 16th Amendment is going to say. The 16th Amendment to the United States Constitution allows Congress to levy an income tax without apportioning it among the states on the basis of population. So this is just basically an explanation, but this is what the 16th Amendment says. Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the states, several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration. So it's quite funny that it says the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes. But the funny thing is that property taxes, your property is in your income, especially if you're planning on living there for the rest of your life. So that's one thing that is quite perplexing. We will dive deeper into this 16th Amendment, but I just wanted to do a little touchdown and talk about where the income taxes started. There's actually a gentleman that was responsible for developing the whole East Coast from Florida all the way up to the Northeast. His name is Henry Flagler. Here in Florida, St. Augustine, he has a museum, and he's buried in the church in one of the oldest cities here in America, which is St. Augustine, from the 1500s. And there's a really funny saying, not ha-ha funny, but sort of funny, where before 1913, he died before 1913, and there's a statue of him walking with his hands in his pocket, and the joke is that he's never experienced the income tax because he died right before income tax was instated in the United States. So he got to keep all of his wealth. And us Americans, we have been taxed so much that we think that it's really normal. We think, how is our government going to survive? How are they going to survive? What are they going to do? They need the money. So the funny thing is, I'm going to insert right here our debt clock so that you can see where all of our taxes and our money is going. I've already talked about the war that we keep just getting into. Our government just keeps getting us into war and taking our money and our profit and putting into war, and we really don't want that. Adding trillions of dollars back into war when we voted for peace. That's really what they're doing. And then they're spending our money unwisely. So I'm going to insert the debt clock here so that you can actually see where your income taxes are going. It's not being put to any use, because there's people that are homeless, unfortunately, living in their cars. They have to have government assistance, and pretty much in abstract poverty. and not being able to make it, that's where our money's going. It's going to nonsense, and it's being mismanaged by our public servants. So I am for the elimination of income taxes, and I'm ready for us to pay attention to our public servants and hold them accountable and tighten the budget, and maybe, just maybe, we should decrease their salaries like ours. Like, you know, the 3% flat tax that they did to the Americans in 1861 that made $800. What about the people that make 24 that are in the poverty level, that are making $24, $25, $26,000 a year? Maybe even a little more. I'm hearing $20 an hour. You're still at the poverty line. How about we have our public servants make $20,000 a year, $24,000, or $20 an hour? How about $15 an hour? And let's see how quick they'll be more responsible with our taxes. So I wanted to share that with y'all. Let me know what you think. We'll come back with more videos. Maybe we'll dive deeper into the amendments, especially the 16th Amendment in regards to property taxes, since that is a very hot topic right now, the elimination of property taxes. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, subscribe, share with others, get others on board. Like I said, subscribe. Thank you all for your support and for being here.